Welcome in, Irish fans. It is Sunday, August 25th, and yesterday we officially kicked off the college football season. Now, if you got to watch the Georgia Tech versus FSU game, as an Irish fan, you might be a little bit concerned. Heard a lot of talk, seen a lot on social media, had some conversations with some people this morning. What does that mean for our schedule? What does that mean for our game against Georgia Tech? Should we be concerned in October going down and playing in Atlanta in the Mercedes-Benz Dome? Are we going to lose to an unranked or not top 10 FSU team here in South Bend in November? And the amount of paranoia and the amount of concern out there is, well, a little bit unfounded. It's all noise. And the reason I say it's all noise, right? As I so eloquently put it on social media, it's all mooing and pooing, meaning it's noise and it's crap. The reason that it's all noise and it's all crap is because it doesn't matter this week. We got to beat Texas A&M before we can be concerned about Georgia Tech or FSU. We as fans should be concerned about Texas A&M before we get concerned about Georgia Tech or FSU. We haven't seen a game yet. We haven't seen what our offense can do. We haven't seen what our defense can do. Now, as a fan base, we're fairly confident in our defense and our defense's abilities. We're bringing back Xavier Watt. We're bringing back Benjamin Morrison, who, by the way, I still say is the best cornerback, and anybody who says otherwise is just flat out wrong. Best quarterback in the NCAA. We're still bringing back Howard Cross. We've got an amazing group of 11 guys in that defensive group that are going to go out there and get it done for us this season. So the big question mark that we have is the offense. What has Coach Denbrock done to get us ready for week one? We're going to get better over the course of the season. What we see this week against Texas A&M is not what we're going to work. That's not what we're going to see against Georgia Tech. And that's not what we're going to see against FSU 12 weeks from now. And no, I didn't do the math. But that's the reality. So it's all noise and it's all crap. And you just got to ignore it. You've got to shut it out. It was a great game. Take it for that and leave it at that. Because it doesn't matter what Georgia Tech or FSU is ranked when we play them. Georgia Tech's getting all kinds of accolades as to being a good football team, and FSU is still getting accolades as to being a good football team. And what their final season record is doesn't matter. We just got to win out. Period. So let's shut down the noise and shut down the concern. Let's calm down. The reality is we got to get ready for Texas A&M. Now, I've even had conversations about being concerned about playing Texas A&M week one, about the heat. You know, the media's certainly had some conversations about it with Coach Denbrock and Coach Freeman. You know, hey, I hear it's hot down there. Well, guess what? We're set up for a great week to go down to play Texas A&M because it's supposed to be in the 90s all week in South Bend this week. 97 on Tuesday. So you think it doesn't get hot and humid in South Bend? Guess what? It does. And we're going to have exactly that this week. It's going to be a great week for practice for this team to go and prepare. We can finish answering the questions that we've got on the offensive line. We can finish preparing this team to go play in a hostile environment. And it will be hostile in more ways than just the heat. We already know that Kyle Field is one of the loudest stadiums in the country. They don't call themselves the home of the 12th man for nothing. And I hope the Irish fans show up and turn out and make it a less hostile environment. That's my hope. But if you don't think that this is a game that Texas A&M and Texas A&M fans are hyped up for, and they're coming for us to support their team, think again. They're coming after us. So be ready. Be ready for a fight. There's going to be a fight on the field. Because the two teams playing this week, the two top 25 teams playing this week on College game day in prime time at 7:30 p.m., those two teams both want a shot at the playoff. Notre Dame can get there. We can be the team that gets it done. We already know that we've got the defensive weapons. The big question mark is the offense. Is there a lot of concern? Should we be concerned about the offensive line? I think everybody's concerned about the offensive line. I think the offensive line's concerned about the offensive line. Now, it sounds like Anthony Knapp's going to start. Great. We remember exactly how that worked out with Joe Alt. And if Knapp's got the fire in him to get it done, I don't care if he's an inch shorter and 30 pounds smaller. If he's got the fire in him to get it done, and we know he's got the skill and he's got the talent, we gotta put the best guy in there. We gotta put the guy in there that wants the job the most in there too. And I talked last week about being 1% better. Sometimes being 1% better comes from here. And from here. As much as it does from your own physical capacity to get the job done. So I think this week it's going to be a matter of who's got the fire, who's got the drive. Who's going to go out there and get it done, and who do you know is going to go get it done for you in the game? And we may not have answers until Saturday as to who's starting on the offensive line. And that's okay. You know what? I feel better about that personally, because that means that the coaches are really evaluating the decision, and they're really thinking hard about it. And Coach Denbrock's sitting there, asking himself, well, do I play the guy that wants to work the hardest? Do I play the guy that's most physically talented? Is that guy the same guy? Or are those two separate people? And does that make my decision harder? The situation will resolve itself. All right, I want to address one more thing. I want to address the Urban Meyer comments about Notre Dame's quarterback recruiting and us starting Riley Leonard this year. Riley Leonard is not the same situation that we had with Sam Hartman. Hartman came to Notre Dame to prove to the world that a Wake Forest quarterback could go play in the NFL. And he gave us a great season. He didn't give us a perfect season, but he gave us a great season. Now, we had some miscues. We all remember those. But Riley Leonard is not the same quarterback that Sam Hartman is. Riley Leonard was projected to be an NFL draft pick last year until he got rolled up on by Howard Cross while we were playing at Duke and broke his ankle and lost the rest of the season and couldn't go to the combine and couldn't go to his pro day. So should there be a level of concern about us starting Leonard? The only concern that we should have is the one that Coach Denbrock pointed out in the press conference last Saturday, which is that he hasn't built enough trust with the players at this point in time with the wide receiving core. He trusts himself more than he trusts the receivers. He's got to break his own mental barrier there and not just get it done with his legs. And the coaches are going to work on that with him this week. And I'm sure have spent the last week working with him on that. Right? There's been no media coverage of the practice for the last week. There will be no media coverage of practice this week. So they're going to figure that out. But Riley Leonard's going to get it done. He's got the talent. And he's not the same quarterback, the transfer quarterback that everybody, that Coach Meyer is kind of pointing out. And to get back to that point, Steve Angeli, great recruit out of New Jersey. Kenny Minchie, great recruit, right? They were just really young when Coach Freeman took over this program. And CJ Carr, great recruit, right? Again, though, he's young. And we're going to see great things out of CJ Carr. And it doesn't really matter, honestly, whether we get Deuce Knight or not. Because Carr's probably going to play in front of whoever comes behind him eventually, whether it's next year or the following year. You know, it could be Steve Angeli and then CJ Carr for until he goes to the draft. And any quarterback coming in has got to ask, do I just want to have 1 year or do I want to have 2 or 3 years? Guess what? We've got another guy in the till for 2026. And I'm not thinking about 2026 right now. So, don't be concerned about, again, right? Moon and pooing. Don't be concerned about whether or not we get Deuce Knight or somebody in 2026 or somebody in 2027. Let's focus on the talent that we have right now. All right. That's all I got. Have a great Sunday. Have a great week. I will be back Friday for a little bit of a pregame warm-up, if you will. And we'll talk more about Notre Dame going in to play Texas A&M. Love y'all. Keep looking up. Go Irish.